Hey, Alpha fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Just wanted to give a big congratulations to you guys out there in Alpha because we definitely played this one right. We set two entry points originally down here along this forming wedge, these higher lows of Bitcoin, and of course, we did take that profit. And of course, the motto of this channel is always be taking your profit. Guys, don't be waiting for this market to just turn around and dump on you whenever you have a chance. Take your profit. Of course, we were blessed with that second entry and we were able to take profit one twice, right? And then what was the condition that I set on this channel, which is that we needed to be consolidating around 20,000. $500 if we were going to re-enter this position and potentially take along to these, to take profit 2 zone and take profit 3 zone. And of course, it was a couple days of just, biting our nails, wondering what was going to happen. Was Bitcoin going to dump down or was it going to pop up? And of course, in just one day, it just started to just go crazy, and we did have our re-entry positions set up around there, around 20,600 after those nice, couple days of closures. Around 20,500, and so we were able to ride that up, take profit at our take profit 2 zone. It actually just kind of hovered around and then popped up suddenly to the take profit 3 zone, where it would have been up to you to have a kind of a sell order there. You guys can set up limit orders, limit sells. And so that's how you can take your profit, even if you're away from the computer, even if it only pops up there for a couple hours, right? And then comes back down. Maybe you're at the movies, maybe you're having dinner, maybe you're at work. So you guys got to make sure to set your limit sell orders in these take profit zones, and not just hope that it just keeps going straight up. These things don't ever go straight up or straight down. So you're gonna have to just be comfortable taking your profit. And after months of downward movement on the charts, right? I mean, this thing has just been a falling knife, a thunderbolt, to the ground, from heaven. We're basically counter trading here. When we're going long, when the market is just overall bearish, we are counter trading, and it's very dangerous, guys. It's very dangerous. So you do your risk management. You bring your stop losses up and you take your damn profits every chance that you can get. You take your profits. The motto of this channel is always be selling, always be taking your profits, guys. Okay? Put food on your table. Don't just hold these stupid coins. These stupid coins do not care about you. They will not change your life. The money that you get from selling them will change your life. So just make sure that you understand that and that you're taking reasonable actions. We're still in the take profit 2 zone. If you haven't taken any profit yet, I highly suggest that you do, because again, these markets can flip around on a dime, and we are overall in a downtrend, which means that at any time, any news could just send us plummeting. And what do we have coming up next week? We have the CPI data, which is that inflation data, which will suggest if inflation is increasing or decreasing. If it's decreasing, the Federal Reserve, decreasing or flat, then the Federal Reserve may just, be pretty neutralish on rates. If it's increasing, they may have an incredibly, a harsh rate that could just send us to a full capitulation mode on the in crypto and in the stock market, because this is an everything crash. It's not just the crash of crypto, right? And so everything is crashing because it was all just pumped up artificially, by the politics, in that kind of Federal Reserve mentality that was occurring around the whole world, but especially in the United States, that kind of $5 trillion of money printing during the Trump administration, where they just, gave out, recklessly, trillions and trillions of dollars to anybody who wanted it. They gave out unlimited stimulus checks, right? And the stock market just exploded because these CEOs, they were acting very corrupt, okay? They were very corrupt and they bought back their own dumped stocks, just sending stocks to the moon when they were supposed to be spending that money on helping people, on making sure the economy doesn't collapse, all of that stuff. And so so what's happening now, because everyone spent all of that, all of those stimulus checks, instead of on innovation, they spent it on just buying stocks and buying crypto. What are we seeing? We're seeing hyperinflation. We're seeing all of those markets now collapsing when we have to pay the price in terms of inflation. So we have to fight inflation. You even just make a slight change to interest rates, all this stuff comes crashing down, and that just shows you how fake it was, right? How fake those politicians were when they were saying, "Oh, the economy is so good. Look at the stock market. It's just going crazy. I must be the best president ever." No, you basically bribed CEOs to pump the stock market artificially. Your best friends made billions of dollars off the taxpayers' backs, right? Your children ended up making millions and millions of dollars, and I don't care which party they're from. Guys, we're talking about both parties here. They're all crazy corrupt, okay? And so we are paying the price, and we have to have a very serious discussion about this. I don't want you guys treating any of these politicians like gods. You should all be hypercritical of all of them, because what they have been doing is just the greatest theft in the history of the world, and Jerome Powell is at the center of it, and he was put in place by Donald Trump, and he was kept in place by Biden. So it's both of these guys, it's both of these parties. There are invested powerful interest in basically robbing you and feeding their friends, okay? So look, this CPI data is going to determine if the Fed is going to continue to increase rates, in a harsh way, or if they're going to kind of ease off. If they ease off, then perhaps we can go sideways or we can go up in the market. So I would just suggest for the next week, right, until July 13th, we may have, the possibility to do a little pumpiness. We may dump. It could just be kind of ranging type stuff. And then, depending on how this news comes out, whether it's good or bad news, next Wednesday, you could potentially see markets skyrocket, or you could see markets just dump to hell in a total capitulation event. And so, guys, that's why I'm saying, like, this was a pretty good trade. Don't be a gambler, right? Don't just put coins into the casino. You don't have to be trading every single day, every single moment. If you get, 2 or 3 good trades in a week, you've done your job as a trader, right? You do not have to become a gambler. There's a, a clear difference between gambling and trading, and knowing your risk management is part of that. So the risk here is that we could come all the way down. Of course, some of these, I think this is the one that I posted on my Twitter, just because it's kind of like a simplified version. It kind of shows you where the EMAs are at. And so let's go ahead and go to the daily. Let's see. My EMAs. Yep. So pretty much the 34 is where I would expect it to be. We look at that. We bounced right off of the 34. And this was going to be our stretch goal. This 50 up here looks like it's actually lower than than I expected. So I'm just going to move that down a bit. Not bad, not bad. But so if we can kind of capture that area, then it's kind of a stretch goal. But really, I want us to just be taking our profit in these 2 areas. You can see I suggested that these 2 were the reasonable ones. And look, we hit it. And then we hit this one. So congratulations, Alpha Fam. You are doing a great job. Please put food on your table, because this thing can reverse. I will move this one up, because of course we have to watch our stop losses. We should be moving up our stop losses, to above our entry points, so that we can never lose money, right? If we move our stop losses above our entry points, you can never lose money. Even if you decide not to take profit and you just want to let it ride like a gambler, then, at least move your stop loss above your entry point, okay, whenever you get into profit. And then even if you're a gambler, you can't lose money. At worst, you can break even. Guys, this model is getting a little bit long in the tooth because we're now talking about a new area. But let's switch over to the CME charts. So those were the 24/7 exchanges. The difference between the 24/7 exchanges and the CME charts right now is that the 24/7 exchanges had that huge dump to 17,000, whereas the professional exchanges were closed at that time. That means that that was done by whales on the weekend, right? They were doing like shenanigans during off hours from the professional exchanges. And so technically on the Bitcoin chart, we have a lower low, right, on the professional exchanges. We don't have a higher low on the as we do on these 24/7 exchanges. You can see here's the low, and then we have a higher low. But on the professional exchanges, and so that's like FTX, that's like Coinbase, that's like Binance, the ones that I just showed you. But here on the professional exchanges, we actually have a lower low. So this is like the stock market, okay? You can just kind of visualize or understand it that way. And so which one is going to win out? The lower low, which is obviously, not a good thing, or the higher low, which is a good thing? It could be a massive bull trap. Do you understand? Like it's just 50-50 right now. And this candle right here is an indecision candle. We have about 4 more hours until this day closes, but it's a big indecision candle. So when I tell you guys to take your profits, obviously it's not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm going to be doing. It's for good reasons. We don't know if this potential measured move up to this 23,000, maybe 23,000, maybe 24,000, you could end up working out. And I want to show you something on the weekly. We actually have our 200 EMAs like about to hover over our head on the professional exchanges. And so we easily can get rejected from those 200 EMAs. If I go over to the 24-hour exchanges, let me turn off those drawings, then you can see that it's essentially the same location. Wow, this one is much higher on the 24/7 exchanges compared to CME. But nevertheless, you can see that where we wicked to was precisely the 200 MA, the 200 moving average, the skinny orange line. The fat orange line is the 200 EMA, which hugs price action just a little bit tighter. And so, yeah, guys, I do think that we could potentially play in this range if we're able to break through that 22,500. But the fact that we got a pretty nice, I wouldn't say rejection. We're just having a pullback right now. So really, I want to see if we consolidate underneath it. If we consolidate underneath it, then probably we can have the potential to pump up, but it just may take a considerable amount of energy. These 200 MAs and 200 EMAs, they are no joke. These are like very, very, very strong barriers, okay? It took a lot for us to get underneath that 200 EMA. Look, you can see like the entire price action like of Bitcoin just bounces off of it. Just bounces off of it. Just stays ahead of it. And so for us to actually break down under it, it's just it must be such traumatic. It must be so much energy. It must be so forceful. But breaking back above it should require that same amount of energy. It should take just an incredible amount of enthusiasm. And so if we don't have a change in the Fed's policy, then most likely we aren't going to be busting through this stuff, especially this one up here. There may be some chance for a bull trap, just in this area. If we look at the daily, on the, let's go over here to the CME chart, then you can see, of course, that we do have our CME gap up here, which would need to be filled. And so that would be kind of the stretch goal. Like if we were able to push to that that kind of 200 EMA area on the weekly, then perhaps we could fill that gap and then come back down. But right now, it's just very indecisive, and at least for at least for the weekly on the CME charts, the 200 MA is in the same area as the 200, or both 200s are in the same area, and so this is kind of a heavy resistance zone, and I just wouldn't expect for us to get above there, especially since it also represents the 5, and for us to get into that 5 area, we've just been deflected under it, this pink line here. We've been being deflected underneath it this whole way down. And so would I expect that we just suddenly pumped above it? Not without something fundamentally changing in the market. And we could be getting a little bit of support. We could be getting a little bit of pump in stocks. And so let me go ahead and just move over here to, let's go with the good old NASDAQ. And you can see we're getting this type of pump in stocks. We got a nice kind of formation going here, just kind of a nice consolidation on the weekly. And on the daily, it doesn't look terrible. It's not the worst look, but it does have kind of a double top going on here. And I'm just not sure if we were going to be able to push through or not. Okay, so we didn't make a higher high. We have a higher low, but we didn't make a higher high. And so is this thing going to continue to go or is it not? Like, we just don't know, okay? Like, this could have been just a nice little rally, and maybe it's time to come back down to earth. So take your profit, guys. If we go over and check the VIX, you can see that we did break down from the wedge. And what did I suggest? If we broke down from the wedge, that it would be a good indication that we might have some good trading. So this is in our favor. But look here on the daily, there's that 200 EMA, and it just got rejected from it. I mean, it's not rejection, but it's reacting to it, right? It's bouncing from it, and we have to see if it's going to be able to push through it like it did over here, or if this is just going to be like a fake out to the downside and then it re-enters this wedge and perhaps starts skyrocketing, that would make trading very difficult. So I want to see us, push through this area. I want to see us break that 23 before we can really say, oh, we've got easy trading coming up, okay? But if we do, we've got easy trading coming up. So watch that on the VIX. And then, of course, the dollar is, looking indecisive itself. It's not the strongest look for the dollar. As I was mentioning previously, we did hit this kind of target area, right? And then my ultimate target for like just total capitulation of the markets, would be up here. But right now we're in this kind of like really ugly territory. And if it's time for the dollar to start turning around a bit, that could make trading easier also because the dollar has been putting a lot of pressure on these different markets as people have been fleeing to dollars. So if they no longer flee to dollars and the dollar comes down a bit, then perhaps other assets are going to have an easier time because people might be putting their money in that instead. Let's go ahead and go back to a Bitcoin because a Bitcoin definitely is the analogy for the rest of the market right now. And whether you're in altcoins or whatnot, some of them will be following whatever Bitcoin's doing. Some of them are just kind of dead right now, so it's really hit or miss. Your altcoin may not be doing what you want it to be to be doing. So, for example, Bitcoin like basically pumped 20%, right? But if you go over to just some just ones that I've just been watching. This really isn't urgent. It says urgent on the list name, but it's not really urgent. Let's see. Just kind of left this list together. So if there's like Zilliqa actually ended up dropping, right? Now that's unfortunate. So Zilliqa has come down like 5%, but it really didn't follow Bitcoin up on that path. And so while it did come back to trend and it's having kind of a bullish trend and it has the potential to pop, I did enter this trade and I kind of regret it because I could have just been in Bitcoin and made 20%, but instead, I was in Zilliqa and I'm basically just a break even, which is fine. But it just didn't do anything. I had the greed, I had the hope for like something like this, like a 30 to 40% increase. If Bitcoin was going to do, 10 to 10 to 20% increase, maybe Zilliqa could do just something crazy. And it might still do it if Bitcoin has a run, but I'm just warning you guys, like some of these altcoins that do typically very well, like some of them are just going to be flat right now. That's just the nature of the market. Meanwhile, where was another one that I was calling for? Well, let's just type it in. Aave. This is one that I gave as kind of a group call in the Discord. And so Aave did something like 15%, right? So it was pretty good. I mean, to its top, maybe let's just give it, let's see, where was this? July July 3rd. Let's measure from around here. That's about when Bitcoin was being called. Up to the top of that wick, it did 34%. Okay, so Zilliqa like lost 5% or was basically like break even or maybe made 5%, depending on where your entry was. I got in a little bit late on Zilliqa, but for Aave, when I was calling it along with Bitcoin, it's made 34%, whereas Bitcoin did 20%. And so you can see there's going to be like these huge differentials in the different coins, and it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault if one coin pops off and or if one doesn't. It's just the market right now. There's not enough money to be filling up all of these coins at the same time, and some of them are going to go, some of them aren't going to go. If we look at Ethereum right now, you can see like Ethereum did, let's say 20%. So basically, Ethereum basically matched Bitcoin, okay? Usually, Ethereum does better than Bitcoin. So for Ethereum just to do the same as Bitcoin, like you can understand this market is can be very difficult for altcoins, right? So it's we don't know if your altcoin is going to be the better bet or not. So I would suggest perhaps if you're in alts, maybe focusing on maybe two or three, maybe four different alts, and just very, very carefully managing them and following the ones that just continue to move and have kind of bullish patterns rather than just one, because one could do something very weird. And I also want to just emphasize that if you are in altcoins, they can die faster than Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does suddenly come down, you could just lose everything that you made up, that you made in your altcoin or even more. Whereas Bitcoin might just be kind of moving at the same pace that it goes up as it moves to the downside, pretty much the same pace, right? And the reason for this is that when we're in these type of bad markets, money just flees to Bitcoin because it's viewed as the safe one, right? Let's see. Let's see. I don't really have too much to offer on this episode, except, guys, like we're entering a very heavily resistant area, right? Even on the 4 hour, you see the 200 is up here. Look at this. We're on the 4 hour right now. And so, the 200 is just over our head. If we can get into this $23,000 area, I would just say take the rest of your profits and then just see what Bitcoin does, if you're long. And if you haven't taken your profit yet, just take some profit, take it off the table. We're making kind of a lower high here on the 4 hour, even though we have a higher low. And so let's see if I can just clean up this chart a little bit, get rid of those EMAs. Let's see here. Do I need this one? Probably don't need that one. This one is still going to be interesting just to follow. Let's see, I don't need this. Okay, so look, we basically had this kind of rounding bottom here that has now taken us more dramatically to the upside. The fact that we didn't violate this basically this green line here, uh, that's actually a really good sign that we could potentially bounce and push up to that, one more level, like a take profit 4 area, right? And if we were able to do that, get into this kind of like bonus level, right? Take profit 4. If we're able to get this kind of like a bonus area, it's really going to be dependent that we don't break below this trend around 21,000. We don't want to take out this low, and we definitely don't want to break. We definitely don't want to break this area over here. We could call that maybe just let's say 20,500-ish. And if we break down below, let's just say 20,000. Uh, no, let's just say 20,200. If we break down below 20,200, then I would suggest we could actually end up testing anywhere down here, right? Like we could do like this, we could do like this, we could just be capitulating, right? So this area right here is going to be very, very, very important for me. You can see it definitely violates our diagonal. I'll just get rid of those drawings. Sometimes go a little crazy with that stuff. But you can see that this area right here, it violates our diagonal to the downside, right? It violates this diagonal to the upside, right? And it also violates this diagonal that we have coming across here. So if we cross this point, this should be a very strong support for us, even if the horizontals are a little bit mixed. So speaking on horizontals, we have this horizontal right here, right? So this would be your first warning if we violate approximately 20,000. I mean, we could say 20,700-ish, right? 21,000. Just wanted to be conservative. That's like a big red flag, right? If we violate 21,000, it's going to be a big red flag, and then you pretty much want to abandon ship if we're violating like 20,000. Let's just say 300, okay? Probably just want to abandon ship because we're probably going to be continuing to the downside if we violate that area. And so that's why I have this red box here. This one is just stop being long, right? Like whatever you're holding, like just break even because our entry point was up here anyway, right? So you should have a stop loss around 20,600, but just in case you don't have your stop loss, I suggest you put your stop loss at 21,000, but that's up to you. Again, like not financial advice, you have to manage your own trades. Um, and as long as we're above this kind of trend line here, it's really bullish, and we could potentially see these areas 22,800 to perhaps 24,000. So just somewhere in that area. If we even just barely wick into that area, I would just suggest get out. Take your profit and get out if you're not fully out already. And then we wait for the next obvious setup, right? It's not like you're just done trading forever. We just wait for the next obvious setup. That's all. Because this was an obvious setup, and this is not an obvious setup. I mean, this might be a good shorting position, to be honest, but we would have to wait to see conditions. And again, like next week is going to be kind of political. Next week is going to be a big economics, macroeconomics thing. There are going to be a lot more things being discussed in the market than just crypto. And so just be highly aware that next week is very sensitive. If we go ahead and just look at our indicators, we can see that on the daily, uh, you know, our pump to the upside was really dependent on this volatility coming down, which it did nicely. This is non-directional, so again, guys, don't trade off of this indicator. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't tell you if the price is going to go up or down. It really depends upon certain conditions. So it's pretty complex, and a lot of people just get wrecked trading this indicator. So please, if you're trading volatility, just understand, it can get pushed in either direction depending upon the conditions of the market. So you have to understand all of those conditions. But the thing is that at least for right now, we have a simple setup where, at least on the daily, it's pretty obvious that as we were contracting into low volatility, we were able to get that push. We did end up getting a little bit of a pullback, and that condition is actually continuing. It is softening, but it is continuing, which means that we could potentially continue to pull back, which means price could continue to drop. And this thing doesn't have to hit the floor. I mean, it should eventually over time hit the floor, but it could meander a bit and even come up and then come down. So I don't want you to just expect that this thing has to like hit the floor. Okay, a lot of people might be suggesting that that could happen, but I want to just show you, like back here, right? Like it can meander around a bit, and so this might not be, once this type of a cross happens, it's better just to take your profit and then just, you know, wait to see if we get some confirmation that it's going to continue to contract rather than, just staying in the market. Because if it suddenly, spikes back up, or if, the other indications that are related to this one, start suggesting that there could be a reversal in that sense, from the current move, then that could just smash us down to hell. Okay, so just be very careful right now. I'm just showing you this cross to just show that something different is happening right now, and it could be undone, but we have to be highly aware that all of the gains that we just made could suddenly be reversed. But overall, we still have that upward, kind of expansion of the market here on the Stokes. But, the dot is actually right here. Here's the red dot and here's the blue dot. And so we are getting at these points that we could potentially turn around. So, um, again, like take it with a grain of salt. Like these things can just suddenly turn around. It's very sensitive. So just because we're pointed up doesn't mean that we're going to stay pointed up. This thing could come down quick. On the weekly, yeah, you see on the weekly, we still have a negative orientation. The red dot is right here on top and the blue dot is below. So we're very, very low on the weekly, which should be expected because, of course, we're basically capitulating, right? This market is tanking, but we haven't crossed up or anything like that. So just because there's a little bit of bullishness in the market, like on the weekly, we're still going down. Like, and you can see if we're building up, uh, if we're building up, on the weekly here on this volatility, then we haven't even crossed. So this move isn't even over yet, and this thing could easily, just go like this. Actually, it doesn't even have to cross right here. It could just continue to like curl up or something. So, guys, just be aware that, in fact, this dotted line is suggesting to me that, it could be a while. I mean, you can imagine different paths, but, it could be a while until we actually bottom out. So I would suggest that this is perhaps going to continue to contract. I guess, we could do something like this, where we just come down like this. And so perhaps we could have a turnaround soon. It's just, you don't know. That's the key point. You don't know. Like we are still headed in the downward direction. Everything is still pushing us to the downside. And, just like we have just a little bit of softening right here, we had like two of them here, and then we just continued down. So, we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, we'll see how this works out. But on the daily, let's see how our money flow. It's increasing, but the trend, the ADX here is pulling back. So yeah, I mean, it just looks a bit weak. That's all. Momentum is still to the upside, but there does seem to be a little bit of rounding. I mean, we easily could pull back. Easily could pull back here. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the strong. I mean, look at this. Look at this candle. I'm seeing the strong possibility for a pullback, and not, not guaranteed that we're going to have that continuation before we have a pullback. So let's just watch it, guys. Again, there's no obvious setup right now. So I'm just not going to do anything. Took my profits and just waiting for the next setup. That would be my recommendation. But of course, this is not financial advice. You guys do whatever you want. And of course, there's a link in the description of this video if you want to go join the Discord and add to the discussion. We just casually talk there. No big pressure. It's free. And if this market does end up turning around sooner than later, then we can all support each other for perhaps a little bit of a run, whether it ends up being a relief rally or if it ends up being the bottom of the market. It's always good to be around people to just get advice, discuss things, share your information, that sort of thing. All right, guys, gonna head out. That's your alpha for the day. Stay safe and happy trading.